Images of nuclear bombs falling and people taking shelter in underground bunkers may seem completely unrelated to this sunny piece of the Ayrshire coast. However, for almost 30 years, this was one of many vital places across the United Kingdom, keeping us safe. Located outside the village of Skelmorlie, 3 miles north of Largs, you will find Skelmorlie's secret bunker, previously manned by spare-time members of the Royal Observer Corps, which stood down in September of 1991 as a result of the ending of the Cold War and the absence of a nuclear threat from Russia. In 2003, this derelict underground monitoring post, constructed in 1965, was restored back to its operational state by members of 25 Group Air Royal Observer Corps Association. The underground post would have recorded the flash, blast, and radioactive fallout from a nuclear attack as part of a chain of 865 monitoring posts covering the entire UK.
When I joined the Royal Observer Corps back in 1983, coming from Largs, which is only 3 miles away from this site, this was my very first posting to Skelmorlie, which at that time was within 25 Group Royal Observer Corps, and this was 23 Post Skelmorlie. In 2003, I just happened to be passing by the road, travelling from Greenock down to Largs, looked across the fence and I could see absolutely nothing. The place was totally overgrown, and I had this mad idea to see if I could restore it back to its operational state as it was in stand down for the posts in September 1991. So on site we have a museum comprising of a range of instruments and equipment that we used. Also on site we have a replica monitoring post, which means that those people who are unable to climb down into our underground post, it's something like about a 15-foot vertical steel ladder, that they can experience what the post was like underground, but without having the hassle of going down the ladder. In addition, we have a small toilet available on the site, and we also have a World War II replica monitoring post, which was built for us by the West of Scotland College up in Greenock. Welcome to Skelmorlie Secret Bunker Museum. This is where we keep our various bits of equipment, instruments and memorabilia. This site here is basically the Corps during World War II. We have various aircraft models, both German and British, along with civil defence equipment, steel helmets, gas masks, metal handbells used by members of the air raid wardens for gas attack. We also have a whistle and such like. So a lot of stuff here relating to World War II original equipment. Moving to this side of the display cabinets, what we have is the nuclear side of the collection itself, which comprises of some of our main instruments, our ground zero indicator. And moving further down, we have various radiation detection equipment, both the older style up until about 1986, when we moved over to a more modern style. So it's a fairly extensive range of radiation monitoring equipment, followed by some items relating to World War II and general information itself on the Corps. That's what Skelmorlie looked like in 2003. That was it. Remember I mentioned the fact that you could hardly see it, so when I stopped and looked across, that was it. That's all that was left. All the compound fencing had gone. The mound itself was no use to the farmer, so it was just left. Fuel was used for sheep and cattle. Again, that's another shot. I'm afraid the colour started to go a wee bit, but again, showing what it was like in those days once we cut away all the vegetation. During our tours during the year, some people are unable or unwilling to go inside the actual monitoring post itself. So last year, with some funding from the National Lottery Fund, we were able to build this replica post, which means that you can walk into it, it's fully equipped, and we can describe the equipment and instruments inside a monitoring post. Various bits and pieces, paper logs and such like. As I've mentioned, the radio there, we have the bomb power indicator set up on there, so this would measure the pressure of the blast wave passing over the monitoring post. This is the radiation detection equipment here, telescopic rod with the detector head on the top. This would be inserted into the roof of the monitoring post, pushed right up, it goes outside into a grey coloured metal dome cover, which meant that you could sit down inside the monitoring post in relative safety and measure the outside radiation level without physically having to go out. The equipment down the far end, barometric pressure, wind speed and outside air temperature on our mannequin here, and this information would be sent to group headquarters so that they could produce weather charts. You see here the portable radiation detecting equipment that this mannequin had. The aluminium tubes that are here are known as dosimeters, and this measures the amount of radiation that passes through your body. It's got a viewing window at the top, which means that you can look into it, look to a light source, and it can give you an immediate reading of how much radiation dose you have received. We have frozen this monitoring post, this replica monitoring post, on Saturday, April the 20th, 1991. That was our last major international exercise. It took place before stand down in September. So all the information in here and the actual bomb burst plot which was used for the exercise is actual exercise information for that particular day. Okay, this is the actual post site itself, the actual underground monitoring post. So what we have on this side is the access shaft, and this is our ground zero indicator, referred to as a pinhole camera. The flash from the weapon explosion goes through the pinhole, which is on the north, south, east and west sights. That then travels inside, and on this face would be a cassette, Perspex cassette, and inside light sensitive photographic paper, and it would print the image of the fireball onto the photographic paper, and from that we could determine the bearing in degrees, the elevation for height in degrees, and the size of the spot, and that was crucial information to determine where the weapon had exploded and how powerful the weapon was. To go with the ground zero indicator, we had the bomb power indicator. You can't see it from here, but the baffle plates here, just above the surface of the post, the blast wave passing over the post, some of that pressurised air would go in between the baffle plates, go down the hollow tube and give you a pressure reading down below. To warn the public of the approach of fallout, this is our training set of Maroons. Basically, it's 3 pyrotechnics. They would fire off one after the other, shoot a couple hundred feet up into the air and go bang, 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 and that was a warning basically to take cover that fallout was approaching. Welcome to 23 Post Skelmorlie within 25 Group Air. This is the underground monitoring post known as, for PR purposes, Skelmorlie Secret Bunker. Why did they build them underground? Because the effects of a nuclear weapon attack and radioactive debris from the actual weapon itself coming down as fallout, high radiation fields outside, so outside potentially not survivable, it would kill you. Down here, inside this concrete box, designed for 3 people, radiation passing through the earth and soil, passing through the concrete becomes diluted, or for a better word, the people down here are shielded from it, so therefore down here survivable, above ground not survivable. We have the original attack warning equipment. So from the carrier control point based up in Greenock, the police would have warned us that an attack was in progress, and we would then take the appropriate action. Designed for 3 people, we have enough bed space for 2, so one could be sleeping, one resting, and one in duty. Underneath, there's no utilities in this monitoring post, so all the water came in jerry cans. Rations came in sealed cardboard boxes designed for 3 people for 24 hours. So very, very basic. Toilet facilities, there's no showering or toilet facilities. We basically got a plastic bucket as you would have used in the old days for camping or for caravanning. If in fact there was a nuclear attack in the UK, the 3 people who were in here at that point in time would be the 3 that would be staying here until they could be relieved. If they could not be relieved because of outside radiological conditions, the number of rations and the amount of water would be able to last 3 people in here for approximately 2 to 3 weeks. Thereafter, there'd be no water, no rations, and they would have to survive as best they could in a rather nuclear environment outside.
Back above ground, Frank and the team at the secret bunker had been reclaiming and refurbishing equipment salvaged from various monitoring posts and command centres, recreating the full chain of communication from initial attack to a run for shelter.
This particular piece of equipment here, coupled with this here, is basically the attack warning equipment, which would have been held, in this case, in major police stations, something like about 250 police stations, so it was not Royal Observer Corps equipment. And this would have been at the main central point, looking out, looking for any enemy missile attacks in the UK. And this is referred to as the WB 1800, and this is the first point of contact, which would then pass on to the WB 1400 carrier control point, and then would go to carrier receivers, which would notify all those locations such as all ROC posts, all police stations, fire stations and such like, that there was a nuclear attack in progress. And I can demonstrate it very briefly for you. This is the main piece of equipment here. Switching it on, pressing the operate switch, brings up an alarm here. This alarm would be in the police station. The policeman picking up the telephone and listening to the conversation from that microphone, he would be listening to a code word. The code word would be National Attack Warning Red. And that would mean that he or she was then required to issue the warnings to the public. How that would be done would be through this switch here. And then he would speak into it. Attack warning red. Attack warning red. Attack warning red. Attack warning red was the code word for an incoming nuclear attack. So they would then, all the various organisations that had this equipment would then take the necessary actions. The second job of the police was to warn the public, and that would be done through powered sirens. So it would operate the key and press the switch.
Visiting the bunker is an experience like no other. It is a scary thought to imagine the need for a place like this. What Frank and his team have achieved is amazing. Restoring the original bunker in developing the space to what it is today, turning a derelict post into preserved history, all while volunteering his time and expertise. We want to say a massive thank you to Frank for helping us with this film. Skelmorlie Secret Bunker is open for guided tours between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. on weekends from April to September. It is definitely worth a visit to this unique location.